students, this is teacher Yhan and we're back again to our science class. For today's video, we are going to have a review on our past lessons and we are going to answer all the other activities in your book all together. So, get ready with your science book and a pencil. Are you ready? If you're ready, let's begin. On my previous videos, I have taught you about living things and non-living things, right? And we define living things are things that has life, while non-living things are things that has no life. Can you remember or can you give me some examples of living things? We have humans, animals, and plants. And examples of non-living things are those things that has no life, doesn't move, doesn't breathe, and doesn't react to stimuli. To begin with our activities, open your books to page 34. 34. If you go to page 34, this is what you're going to see. Okay? So the direction says, read and answer the following questions. Read and answer the following questions. What we're going to do here is to read this passage all together. We will read this together at the same time. Now, the title of this passage is Paul's House. Paul's House. Now, are you ready to read? I am going to point on each word using this red pointer and you try to read with me, okay? Let's begin. Paul's house. After school, Paul likes to walk around his house. There is a sidewalk made up of bricks and filled with small white stones. These stones help keep the soil to the ground when it rains or watering the plants. There are many kinds of trees at Paul's house. Example, a blooming white hummingbird tree, a fruiting mango tree, a golden trumpet tree, which is a lot taller than it was. Also, there are many animals. For example, house lizards that are looking for insects on the wall. Some millipedes that look like a small train when they move, and Paul's cat that always waves its tail when it gets angry. Paul is so happy with his surroundings. He plans to finish his homework earlier tomorrow, so he can explore his house again. So that's all about the passage. Now after reading this, we have some questions that we need to answer below the passage, and this is what you can see there. So, number 1 says, from above, what are the things found in the story? From the passage, what are the things or the living things and the non-living things found in the story or the passage? Let's go back again to the passage and identify which are the living things and non-living things. I will read again the passage and ask if some words will fall under question number 1. Okay? So I'm going to read it per sentence. Paul's house. After school, Paul likes to walk around his house. In the first sentence, can you spot the living thing and the non-living thing? After school, Paul. What about the word Paul? Paul is a human, right? Paul is a person. That is why Paul is considered a living thing. What about the non-living thing? It's the word house, right? Now let's continue reading. There is a sidewalk made up of bricks and filled with small white stones. Now from this sentence, I can see 2 non-living things. Can you spot the 2 non-living things in this sentence? It's bricks and stones. That's great. Let's continue. These stones help keep the soil to the ground when it rains or watering the plants. Now, can you spot the living things and the non-living things? We have, of course, soil and plants. Okay? Later, we're going to identify this one, whether they are living things or non-living things. So let's continue. There are many kinds of trees at Paul's house. Example, a blooming white hummingbird tree, a fruiting mango tree, and a golden trumpet tree which is a lot taller than it was. Can you spot the living thing and the non-living thing? We have trees. That's great, trees. We also have hummingbird. Hummingbird is a kind of bird. Are there more? Okay, let's continue. Also, there are many animals. For example, house lizards that are looking for insects on the wall. Some millipedes that look like a small train when they move. And Paul's cat that always waves its tail when it gets angry. Paul is so happy with his surroundings. He plans to finish his homework earlier tomorrow so he can explore his house again. So from this paragraph, can you spot where are the living things and the non-living things? We have animals. Animals. What else? We also have lizards. Lizards. Also, insects. Insects. Also, wall. Wall. We also have millipedes. Millipedes. And train. We also have train and cat. Okay, so our last word is cat. That's great. So, all of the circled words should be written on number 1. Okay? So, Paul, house, bricks, stones, soil, plants, trees, hummingbird, animals, lizards, insects, wall, millipedes, train, and cat. So all these living things and non-living things should be written on number 1. Okay? So you're going to write all the words here. So let's start writing. Paul, house, bricks, stones, soil, plants, trees, hummingbird, animals, lizards, insects, wall, millipedes, train, and cat. You can pause this one for you to finish your writings, okay? And if you're finished, let's move on to number 2. Number 2 says, sort the things in question 1 into living things and non-living things. So what we're going to do next is to sort out what are the living things and the non-living things. So we have here the box for living things and the box for non-living things. Are you ready? So let's have, for example, let's start with Paul. Is Paul considered living thing or non-living thing? Paul is a human. Paul is like us. So Paul is considered living thing. That's right. Paul is a living thing. What about house? What about house? Is house living thing or non-living thing? It's non-living thing. That's right. Okay, let's move on. What about bricks? Bricks. Bricks is non-living things as well. What about stones? What about stones? Do stones... What about stones? What about stones? Do stones move? Do they have life? They do not have life. That is why they are considered non-living things. Okay, next we have soil. Soil, is this living thing or non-living thing? Again, this has no life again. That is why it is considered non-living thing. Okay, let's move on. What about plants? Plants can grow. That is why they are considered living things. Now let's move on to trees. Trees. Trees are considered plant. That is why they are also living thing or living things. Now what about hummingbird? Hummingbird is a kind of bird. It's an animal. It has life and they can move. That is why they are living thing. Okay, what about animals? All kind of animals. Is it living thing or non-living thing? Of course, animals are living things. What about lizard? Lizards. Lizards are, of course, living thing. What about insects? Insects are also living things. What about wall? What about the word wall? Wall is non-living thing. Very good. It's a non-living thing. What about millipedes? Millipedes, they can move and react to stimuli. That is why they are living things. Next, we have train. This is a kind of transportation. Train is a non-living thing. And the last one is cat. Cat. Is it living thing or non-living thing? Of course, it's a living thing. Okay, so to move on, open your books to page 35. Okay, we will continue to page 35. And it says here, study the pictures and fill in the blanks. Study the pictures and fill in the blanks. So we have here two pictures. We have here a picture of a dog catching a frisbee. A dog catching a frisbee. This is called frisbee, okay? And the second picture is a guppy fish swimming under the water with pebbles. These stones, small stones, are called pebbles, okay? I repeat, a dog and a frisbee and a guppy fish and pebbles. Now, let's start with number 1. Okay, looking at this picture, where is the living thing? Is it the dog or the frisbee? Is it the dog or the frisbee? Of course, it's the dog. D-O-G, dog. What about non-living thing? Non-living thing. Is it still a dog or the frisbee? It's the frisbee. F-R-I-S-B-E-E, frisbee. Now, why is dog considered a living thing and why is frisbee non-living thing? Because the dog reacts to frisbee by jumping up to get it. The dog is considered living thing because it reacts to the frisbee. Okay, and it can move and it has a life. Now, number 2, from this picture, where is the living thing? Is it the guppy fish or the pebbles? It's the guppy fish. What about the non-living thing? Basically, it's the pebbles. These are the pebbles, the small stones. Okay, now, why is guppy fish considered a living thing? Because the guppy fish can swim and move itself. It can swim and move itself. Okay, so this will be the end of our activity. Now, I just want to give some reminders that you need to prepare for a short quiz next week, okay? Just a short quiz. You have to review your lessons because we're gonna have a short quiz. So that's it. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to answer your activities and homeworks and don't forget to send it on the line. Okay, have a great day and goodbye.